there are also some other questions. So.
Thank you for the lecture. I'm quite familiar with your explanations of crisis and read myself some literature. I am an economist, I believe a heterodox one. I'm interested in your opinion. What kind of system in post-capitalist society would we need? I believe it should be a system that would be, just like capitalism, able to constantly revolutionize itself in order to be somewhat sustainable. Well, a part of the question was posed before. It regards its relationship with nature. So, what could be put in place of this system? What would it look like? Thank you.
Well, I don't know. I mean, this is the point, really. If you asked a medieval monk what capitalism would look like, they wouldn't have the faintest idea what to say. What I'm really arguing for is a process of discovery of what might possibly work, and there are a number of possibilities. I mean, one of the big issues in any really anti-capitalist society would be what to do about the money form, and how do we coordinate without a money form, or if we have a money form, how do we stop people using it as a form of social power? And there was such an interesting history of the battle to liberate the money form from religious constraints in the rise of capitalism. I mean, interest was proscribed by the Catholic Church, currently continues to be in Islam, but they find ways around it, So there are these kinds of questions. Now, I don't know whether electronic monies, which, capitalists come up with, whether an electronic money system or electronic point system or something of that kind could be kind of constructed and exchanges organized electronically. I don't know what the possibilities of that are. I know there are some people who are working on that. So when you ask me these kinds of questions, there are some foundational questions of that sort which we need to pay a lot of attention to. What I am concerned would be is this, that whatever we come up with has to be able to feed and to clothe and house 6.8 billion people on planet Earth at some sort of reasonable standard of living with kind of considerable sensitivity to cultural diversity, and which is not fixed but something which is constantly changing. So yeah, I think that is the kind of the target, as it were, and then the question is, how can we utilize all of the techniques and technologies which are around us right now in a different mode, with different forms of coordination, different command and control structures, and all the rest of it. So I don't know exactly what it would look like. And there's a lot of thinking out there, including nutty thinking, which you don't know whether it's nutty thinking or whether it's whether it's just crazy thinking or whether it's actually got some potentiality. And I'm just one person who can. I don't have a utopian kind of vision that it should look like this or should look like that. But what I do have is a kind of idea that, organizational forms have to be orchestrated, which can address this kind of question. And I see a lot of the left, in particular, kind of immersing itself in certain organizational forms which are not able to address the question, and furthermore, they're not interested in addressing the question. They're more interested in preserving their particular view of what is the appropriate organizational form. And that's something that seems to me has to be broken before the left is going to be able to have a serious debate about, how do we get from here to there. My own view about it in the short run is there's a difference between a revolutionary transformation and a series of reforms that put you in a position to make the revolutionary transformation. And I'm on record as saying, well, about the only thing that actually could say global capitalism right now is really a Keynesian type program, full-blooded. The United States can't do that for a variety of reasons. China can, and China has done, and it's no accident right now that China's been growing at 8 to 10% a year, and to some degree the stability that has re-emerged in global capitalism has everything to do with the success of the Keynesian program which has been launched in China. After all, the German export industry is revived because they're exporting to China. Australia hardly saw a recession at all because it was supplying raw materials to China. Much of Latin America is selling soybeans to China or copper or other raw materials to China. So, the Chinese have, in a way, rescued global capitalism by launching a full-fledged Keynesian program, including the other thing, which is often not recognized about Keynes. I mean, Keynes was no socialist, but he saw practically that the only way you're going to revive capitalism in the situation it was in was to re-empower labour, so that labour got a greater share of the total product. In other words, that thing that's been dropping, of the total, labour as a share of global product going down like that, has to be reversed. The Chinese have allowed strikes to go on, which they haven't allowed before. Wages have increased in many Chinese factories. Some cases they've doubled, in other cases 20 or 30%. In other words, this is clearly an attempt on their part to create an internal market, which is what Keynes said you should do. So the Chinese have actually launched a Keynesian program, and without China doing that, I think that global capitalism would have been in very, very, very serious state right now. But then this leads to the other part of the thing, which we often like to talk about, and I haven't talked about tonight, about who's the hegemonic power in the global capitalist system. And there's been talk for some time now that the United States is gradually being caught up with, China's catching up with the United States and is becoming more and more hegemonic. And over the last 3 years, it's become really, really much more hegemonic. And the mood is very dangerous in the United States, which is to sort of take out China as a big rival. I mean, that's what the Tea Party wants. Suppress China, and you can't do it. And it'd be a very dangerous geopolitical game, so I'm very nervous about the politics that may come out of the United States, which has gone completely crazy these days. No sense whatsoever in terms of what they're doing. And in fact, if anything, the US is committing suicide economically and politically right now. And they don't seem to even realise they're doing it. And I don't know whether I feel good about that or bad about that. It's not, but I can tell you it's not very pleasant to live in the middle of it, as I think you will well know. So it's, so I don't have, so in the short run I think that could give us some breathing room to the construction, to be able to think through these things as opposed to a full-fledged crisis of major collapse, and I don't think anything good is likely to come out of that at all. It's more likely to be sort of a bloodbath rather than violent movements rather than a rational kind of exploration of alternatives. But meanwhile, we have to really work through rational exploration of alternatives.
So this is last round of the questions. So
I have just one question. Do you consider yourself an optimistic or a pessimistic person?
Well, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'm optimistic, and then on Fridays I'm not. But that's when I go and have a drink and say, to hell with it, it's Friday today, isn't it? It's time to go have a drink and say, to hell with it, right?